It is just a huge honor for me today to be podcast interviewing probably the #1 orthodontic disruptor on earth, Dr. Mike Mew, BDS, Masters in Science, Orthodontics, lecturer and lead clinician at the London School of Facial Orthotropics. Dr. Mike Mew lectures and teaches extensively around the world. His personal interest is in the growth and development of the face and understanding the factors that influence it. He has put forward the concept of craniofacial dystrophy to explain the cause of crooked teeth, sleep apnea, many ENT problems, and TMD, suggesting that they all are symptoms of a single underlying problem. Dr. Mike is focused on advancing the orthotropic concepts to achieve significant morphing of the craniofacial skeleton to improve dental and general health. He is reputed to be currently gaining some of the most significant changes in facial form for growing children and non-growing adolescents, yet achieved and has the aim to achieve similar changes in non-growing adults. He feels that simple public health measures could minimize or eliminate these problems in young children. He is passionate about raising debate on the issues and working towards a cure for malocclusion, OAS, and even craniofacial dystrophy. Having engaged with social media, Mike's ideas have gone viral, which literally means millions of people mewing around the world. I love that. His name is Mew, mewing around the world, including me and my homies on Dental Town. It is his aim to use his publicity to find like-minded people within dentistry and other specialties, push for open debate, and find effective solutions. And I just want to say that he's been in the New York Times. I mean, you're the second dentist on the show that's been in the New York Times. Jeanette McLean, the world-renowned pediatric dentist here in Phoenix with silver diamine fluoride, she made the New York Times. I once made the Ahwatukee Times, but I had to pay $300 to have my article published. In New York Times, how two British orthodontists became celebrities to incels. The Mews, a father-son team of orthodontists, have an unusual theory about the source of crooked teeth, one that has earned them a following in some of the darker corners of the internet. That's New York Times. Unbelievable. Then, then there was just another, there's been a couple of other articles. Just recently, they published one, someone follow up where Scientific American just came out with an article like 2 or 3 days ago, and I was so excited because I got to talk to you today, and it was called Why We Have So Many Problems with Our Teeth. So I just want to open up with a selfish question just for me. When I was in dental school, one of my instructors, taught anatomy, Bernard Butterworth, gave me this book called The Naked Ape by Desmond Morris. And he said, Howard, every dentist should get into anthropology because they're not going to find soft tissue, liver and pancreas and organs, but they're going to find teeth. And he goes, anthropology, most of their evidence is teeth. And then the question is, well, how come all these old skeletons and skulls and Neanderthals, how come they didn't have malocclusions? And a lot of the anthropologists are saying that all these malocclusions is just popped up in the last couple of centuries. Is that true or false?
Totally true.
Totally true.
It's, you read the anthropological textbooks, you talk to anthropologists, and there's no question that malocclusion is a modern disease of civilization. There's no quality evidence that disagrees with that.
So some people say, and I'm sorry if this is to trigger some of the people, but they say that breastfeeding, you have this massive breast in your face while you're fighting and tugging, but once the baby shows a little difficulty, mom stops doing it and gives them a bottle that has, a flow that's like 10 times easier to suck out. And that these kids probably would have been laying around in caves chewing ligaments off a wildebeest or something. And now you're giving them mush in a jar. So they got a sippy cup just flowing so that there's no forces on the face while this child's eating. Is that the crux of it?
To use it or lose it.
Use it or lose it?
Yeah, in a way, I mean, I think the lack of breastfeeding is most likely a factor, but I don't think in the general overall facial skeleton, in the the major structure of the face, I don't think breastfeeding is as major an impact as the change in diet and in the change in oral posture. Of course, breastfeeding is related to the change in oral posture, but things have changed. Things have changed massively. If you take someone who walks out the African Serengeti, the Brazilian rainforest, or the Australian outback. These guys stand up beautifully straight. They've got fantastic physical and facial form, all 32 teeth, including wisdom teeth, in pretty good alignment, near perfect alignment usually. And it's not just them, it's their whole family. It's basically everyone within these tribal groups, bar, the small percentage of people who have got accidents, traumas. If you get bitten by a saber-toothed tiger, it's an accident. It's unfortunate. It happens. And you're
for
affected.
A dentist to get killed by a canine tooth of a saber-toothed tiger, what better way would there to go? That's how I want to die, by a canine.
There's a distinct lack of them around these days. But you've had this change, society's changed. We're not living in the same manner that we evolved to live in. That's the basis of evolutionary medicine. And a lot of the chronic diseases of modern society can be related to how we've changed our lifestyle.
So, if there was these podcast things, this is a young thing. I'm 58. I mean, most podcast listeners are under 30. Probably a quarter of the people listening to you are in dental school, and the rest are under 30. Say there was a young lady in dental school, and she was gonna say, well, I'm gonna have a baby, and I'm not gonna do what we did in the last 2 centuries, and I'm gonna have a totally natural Neanderthal baby with a perfect form. What do you think she could pull it off, or is there so many variables and that it wouldn't happen?
It's hard work. I mean, the problem, I often ask the question, I say, are you normal? So I ask people this question, and most people respond, well, I think I'm normal. And
I know I'm not, so
yeah.
I'll be your first dissenter.
Clothes, washing your hair, brushing your teeth. Everything around me is artificial. And we've changed our lifestyle so much that it is really quite difficult to live a normal lifestyle. However, I do think it's possible. We launched a campaign a while ago called Prevent Crooked Teeth. And I'd really encourage everyone to go and sign the petition on Prevent Crooked Teeth. And the idea of this is to try to minimize or even eliminate malocclusion before it's got going. Prevention has got to be the key. And then we need to look at the various things that you could do. Breastfeeding clearly is a good start, and prolonging breastfeeding would be a good idea. But I don't know if you're familiar with the concept of baby-led weaning. And this is, I think, in the States, you've got a slightly different definition of weaning. I think you refer to this as when you stop breastfeeding, whereas the rest of the world defines weaning as when you start the introduction of hard food. So baby-led weaning is about the introduction of hard food, or foods, going from breastfeeding to food. Now, there was a distinct lack of blenders 100,000 years ago. 10,000 years ago. So you couldn't blend the food. You could probably pre-chew it a little bit, but I think that, the novelty of that would wear thin relatively quickly. So kids would have to go from breastfeeding to hard food fairly quickly. And of course, breastfeeding is going to last for, let's say 2 years. I mean, some societies probably went longer than that. But you've got this period of time when a child is gaining as much nutrition as they need, as much sustenance from the breast. And they're starting to introduce hard foods. And this would be, at times, very hard food. And you would then get accustomed to that very hard food. And then you've changed your habits. You've changed your likes or dislikes. And you set out on a very different path from someone who starts with mushy food. We're taught that infants suckle, adults swallow. And this transition should occur progressively over that 2-year period. But we're almost asking babies to start far too early, before they would normally engage in a proper swallow, and giving them food that doesn't require them to have a proper swallow. I once, when I was before I went a bit more paleo with my diet, I remember suckling a Big Mac. It wasn't a pretty sight, but I managed to suckle it. And there was a demonstration of the fact that you don't actually need to chew most of the food that we eat today.
Yeah, and it's just mush.
It's just mush. And of course, I've got a strong jaw, and that strong jaw is related to strong muscles. And how do you get strong muscles?
Chewing tough food.
Yeah, just use them. So in a way, simply put, if you start your child on tough food, that's a very good start. Now, I remember seeing a girl whose father was a dentist, and he brought his child along to see me. And he'd visited the clinic many years before. And his child came in, and she had incredibly good facial development, perfectly straight teeth, loads of space, 8-year-old child. And I looked at her and I said, that is, you almost got ancestral development in your face and your teeth. I said, Hamish, what have you done? And he said, I won't try the Irish accent, but he said that from the day he got back from my surgery, he had got his daughter to chew gum for 1 to 2 hours a day every evening. And the effect was profound, really, very profound. So she was just using her jaw, use it or lose it. She had gained a strong jaw from using it.
So I was not aware of the PreventCrookedTeeth.com campaign statement. It says, for decades, crooked teeth have been accepted as just bad luck, a genetic inevitability that often requires extractions and fixed braces. This is seen almost as a rite of passage for teenagers. However, there is increasing awareness that such treatment can exacerbate obstructive sleep apnea and TMJ disorders, leaving people with a lifetime health problem. There is substantial evidence that suggests that crooked teeth are the result of poor facial growth, and that modern lifestyle choices are playing a major part in preventing, and good facial development need to have room for a full set of bad teeth. What is the campaign? What are we signing?
Well, this is objective to try and raise awareness in the UK.
On change.org.
So
you go to Prevent Crooked Teeth, but then when you sign the petition, it's on change.org.
Exactly. So we're just trying to raise a petition to raise awareness, because we want to be able to go, particularly in countries with socialized healthcare systems, go to the.
So that means you're a communist.
Sorry?
That means you're a communist. I'm from America. And
yes.
if you're for socialized American,
the word socialist in the States is often it's a derogatory term.
Well, and I just want to say something that is sad, because when you're a dentist, you're into you start with math. Applied math is physics, applied chemistry, applied chemistry is biology, applied biology is dentistry, and we spend our whole life there. Then when you switch to religion and politics, the terms aren't scientific. And what you call a socialist, other countries. So I think moving forward, if all the political people could just agree on the same terminology, so what you're talking about.
Interesting watching your election at the moment, because the baggage that comes with your right wing and your left wing, it's not quite the same as the baggage that comes with our left wing and right wing. So terms would be very helpful.
Right. It would. So change.org is, they say you're never supposed to talk about religion, sex, politics, or violence. So let's try to talk about all four of them at the same time. Change.org, make good facial growth a health priority through education, research, and treatment policy. To me, one of my friends, Fred Joyal, wrote a book called Everything is Marketing. Man, if I was a young orthodontist, let me step back. The fastest growing business model in orthodontics today is when you team up with a pediatrician, because a pediatric dentist. Because if you go to someone like Jeanette McLean and 100 people go in there, 99 are going to say, hey, is Billy going to need braces when he goes up? And then you got to give him a referral. They got to make a new appointment, go down the street. So the fastest growing is when a pediatric dentist and orthodontist gets together. But my gosh, a young pregnant mom to start advertising your community, come to our free seminar in our waiting room, and let's talk about how to raise a child who won't even get cavities but won't need braces. Yeah. That would have to be the most intense. Do you have a presentation for them to give?
Well, we go and look at my YouTube channel, the Orthotropic YouTube channel. We have a huge volume of information. It's, lectures on various different angles of what we're saying, and we're adding to it regularly.
Okay, so that's the Orthotropic YouTube channel. Okay, and just for not me, of course, I know what the word means, but just for everybody that does, what's the difference between orthotropic and orthodontist?
Well, orthodontics is about straight teeth. So ortho is correct or straight, and dontos, teeth, whereas orthotropic is ortho, correct or straight, and tropos comes from the word growth. So we're trying to encourage straight growth, because people whose faces grow well have straight teeth. You look at the magazine covers, and the people who have the nicest facial structure, they tend usually to have straight teeth. And I worry so much of what I'm saying is hijacked, because when I help someone's face to develop well, so when I treat someone, I tend to make them good looking. And that has so much baggage associated with it. But we do. And arguably, we're getting the best improvements in facial form from our treatment that have yet been achieved.
If I was going to push out one of your YouTube videos, because you have, my gosh, you have 193,000 subscribers. If you divide that by 10, it'd be 19.3. I only have 14.7. I mean, if you times 10 what I'm doing, it's still, it's amazing. But if I had to push out one video to my homies on that YouTube channel, which, by the way, it explodes the views of it, which one would you want? I would
say the craniofacial dystrophy, modern melting faces.
Okay, there it is. I got it. Modern melting faces. So where do you think, anthropology is interesting. So we were on the Eastern Horn of Africa, probably, the whole million years. In the last 200,000 years, we pick up steam. They're saying about a couple 100,000. What is it? Homo erectus had 2 kids, and one went to Europe and became a Neanderthal. The other one stayed in Africa, and then they met up 70,000 years ago, had sex, some children. About 1 or 2% of the DNA stayed in there, and then that guy went over and met a Denisovan, and that's is that pretty much the story?
They're actually thinking now that there has been loops in evolution, so that they've just found a new, one finch apparently they think flew across to the Galapagos Islands, mated with one of the variety that Darwin observed, and they've started a whole new species of finches. So they think you get this intermixing times, and they think a lot of intermixing went on with our ancestors. So it breaks up that simple tree idea that we had. So, but there's a lot of confusion in this area, and of course we're going on finding the odd skull or the odd bone here or there. It's complex.
Well, I'm 100% Irish. What the hell happened to them?
All of modern humanity should have great facial form and straight teeth, all of them. If you look at the ancestors of all groups, everyone, all our ancestors, they look surprisingly similar, particularly compared to how different people are today. That interests me greatly.
Yeah, I find it very incredibly interesting. So, when did the malocclusion actually start picking up? I mean, was it in the 1800s, or does it go back to 1700s, 1000s?
A slight change in the late Mesolithic period, because people started using tools. Now, if you think that before you have a knife, you've got to cut everything with your incisors. So you've got to do this, you've got a tough piece of meat, and you're going to use your incisors to cut it. Now, as soon as we had knives, that slightly changed the way that modern human dentition was. So previously, people's front incisors, if you imagine the incisor crossing over like this, they would wear the incisors down till they had a slight gap between the incisor. So when we talk about a curve of Spee, you had a reverse curve of Spee with a slight anteropen bite, and people would posture their jaw forward to incise the teeth. And as soon as you gained a knife, you had quite a change in the dental setup, and we gained the modern, overlapping, having an overjet and overbite. So that occurs about 10,000 years ago. Clearly, that depends where people started becoming more civilized. So they're going away from being hunter-gatherers. They're picking up more and more tools, becoming more and more settlements, and they're progressively less of this wear is going on. And so now we have an overjet and an overbite. Now that continues fairly consistently right up till the end of the medieval period. And malocclusion is really rare at this point. If you go back, so I looked at the work of Birgitte Thailander, who did quite a lot of research in Scandinavia with people in cemeteries, looking at cemetery material. And 1,000 years ago, everyone who had wisdom teeth had them working in function. That was normal. If you had a wisdom tooth, it was there. And few people didn't have their wisdom teeth. It was quite rare not to have your wisdom tooth. And teeth were more or less straight in the late medieval period. And I think what really got things going was in the Industrial Revolution. So I'm an orthodontist. I'm very specialist in what I do. But before the Industrial Revolution, most people were subsistence farmers. So you worked on a farm, you worked on your own bit of land, and you basically ate everything you made. So you made everything you ate, shall I say. Now, then as we became specialists, we became consumers. So we started purchasing our food. Now, when you become a consumer, you become quite discerning. I remember being a student and cooking some food that was awful. I mean, had I prevented that food in a restaurant, no one would pay for it. But I'd cooked it, I'd bought it, I didn't want to go out and buy more food, so I ate it. As you become a purchaser, you become discerning. And I think that was a large change in our dietary intake. And the dietary intake was one of the major, probably the most major change. As I said, use it or lose it. I've got strong muscles, so I've got a strong jaw. So as we move from this incredibly tough, rough, hard diet across to this very soft, almost liquid diet, I could probably get 750 calories in a cup like this. Some nice cafe latte with some marshmallows, some sugar. And yet the masticatory effort I would make to consume this would be zero. 10,000 years ago, if you wanted 750 calories, you had some chewing to do, and some tough chewing usually. Particularly, if you had a kill, great. You've got fresh meat, you've probably got fat, you've got all this lovely softer food, but you might not get a kill for a while. So you're going to dry things out. And that meat is going to be it's going to be like leather by the time you may come to eat it. And if life or death, depending on whether you eat, you're going to eat it. And that's going to be a tough chew. But that's only half the story, because we've had another big change that's gone on. People have got, we're getting nasal obstructions very, very commonly. Nasal obstructions, it's not my area, but they're going through the roof. How many infants go through their first year of life without gaining a nasal obstruction? Probably none. And I would imagine that frequently these nasal obstructions will go on for more than a day, probably 1 or 2 days. Now, you have two choices. Either you drop your tongue off your palate, you separate your lips and lower your mandible to breathe, or you pack up and die. And I was amazed when I saw some work by, the father of sleep apnea, name escapes me at the moment. And he did some research showing that the number of children, the cot deaths where they had these high, narrow palates and narrow jaws, that fascinated me. Anyway, everyone that doesn't die, they have learnt to lower their mandible. They have assumed a posture for absolute necessity to survive. Now, after 1, 2, 3 events, you may never put your tongue fully back on the roof of your mouth. You may learn to close your lips, but you have probably gained a postural change. A lot of people, if you look at a lot of kids, they just hang their mouths open. And that is a normal posture they've got. Now, if kids are hanging their mouths open and they've got weak muscles, what's going to happen to the face? Well, have you seen someone who's had a stroke?
Yes.
It lengthens, particularly on that side. And remember, a stroke is the 7th cranial nerve, the facial nerve. That's only the surface muscles. I have worked in hospitals. I did max fax for a while. And I've seen people who have had a road traffic accident, which has damaged their trigeminal nerve, you know, the power muscles. And the change in facial form is unbelievable. You know, it's dramatic, it's quick, and it's very reproducible. You know, it happens, you know, those faces drop. And so what I'm suggesting is that we've moved from this tough, rough, hard diet to this soft diet. We've gained nasal obstruction. That's meant we've lowered our mandible down. And the combination of these two things has lengthened faces, as if most of modern humanity has had a mild to major bilateral stroke. And if you only have so much face, and that face lengthens, it will be narrower and it will be shallower. Less cross-sectional area, less space for your tongue, less space for your teeth, and less space for your airway.
Interesting. I would go to our cousins. So we have 2 first cousins. We have chimps and bonobos, and we have some distant, more distant cousin orangutan, and then a very distant cousin, the gorilla. And I found it interesting where they were talking about bonobos. So we're what do you call it? Sexual dimorphism, where the boys are bigger than girls for sapien and gorilla and orangutan. But it says bonobos males, and bonobos, all the apes are a male-dominated society. The males are bigger, 27% more muscle mass. But the bonobos is the only female society, and bonobos males have long canine teeth, whereas females lack canines altogether, making the bonobos female dominance all more thought-provoking, which was, I mean, basically the way they get all the men to do everything is they give them a treat, and the treat is always sexual. And do you think they lost their canine teeth because of sexual rewards?
No idea.
Huh. Well, there are stranger men than me who think that is related. But anyway, are there malocclusions in all of our first cousins, chimpanzees, bonobos, our distant cousins, orangutans?
I mean, you could go way beyond that. You could say that there's 5,400 species of mammal, and in the entire history of the skeletal founds we've found, on all of them, they nearly always have perfectly straight teeth in perfect alignment, perfectly aligned teeth, and space for all of their teeth. We have some malocclusions starting in domesticated cats and dogs and feral foxes, which is what you would expect, because these are animals, lifestyles have changed. But as a general rule, I remember talking to a vet who said that if you have a certain type of cow, you could almost make a sort of denture or onlay that would fit every single one of the same size of that species, because their teeth were so exactly the same. And, you know, that brings into some of the work of Harvold, where Harvold was, he did 2 experiments, one where he blocked the noses of monkeys and caused malocclusion, and one where he simply put an uncomfortable piece of plastic in the roof of the mouth, and the the control animals all had perfect occlusion, absolute perfect. And all of the experimental animals had severe skeletal and dental malocclusion, just from placing an uncomfortable piece of plastic on the roof of the mouth. No more.
And what do you think about that?
Well, I think that shows what, if the tongue is not on the roof of the mouth, what it's going to do to growth pattern. The tongue's one of the important organs in developing the facial structure. It should help grow the facial structure. If that's hanging down with the mouth open, you're missing an essential part of the normal physiology of growth.
That is just amazing. So, what could, if you were in dental kindergarten school, and when you grew up, you wanted to be an orthodontist just like you, she's probably thinking, is this one of those weird theories where if I follow you, all my other orthodontic peers are going to think I'm a nut job? How is this being accepted in the orthodontic community?
Because, science, we've made huge progression in science. It's incredible. We were talking about mobile phones earlier on, and we've now miniaturized a supercomputer and given it connectivity. And this is incredible what we've achieved. And we've achieved this through the scientific process. However, orthodontics, I worry, has taken a wrong turn and it's gone towards making teeth straight for people. So orthodontics is basically, the science of orthodontics could be summed up: teeth are crooked, we can make them straight. And I think when orthodontics started, people were hoping to backfill the science afterwards. But you've got to a point now that you can't really believe that malocclusion is due to the environment and due to the genes. It's kind of be an either or situation. And this is the problem, because you've got a lot of invested people believing that malocclusion is predominantly a genetic deformity. There's no evidence. I mean, there's almost nothing to suggest that it is. And, I'm hunting for the truth. I want answers. I want the truth, the whole truth, and no dogma. And I worry we've got just too much dogma. I mean, Howard, what were you taught was the cause of crooked teeth in dental school?
Well, that's a long question. I just want to make one comment first. There's so many of my friends dentists think that free enterprise is perfect and government is just, they can't do anything. And I have to remind them that the government invented the internet for their nuclear bomb launching capabilities so that Washington, D.C. could tell them over at Colorado Springs, NORAD. They invented radios because in World War II, the boats couldn't talk. So government, they can't do day-to-day operations very good, but they can do the heavy lifting of research. And they're just good for research. But free enterprise is made up of the same people that are in government. So, unless government was all Martians and aliens, they all came from your households. And when I was little, my mom believed the marketing on television that the powder milk formula was better than her just Neanderthal Irish milk. And so the first three sisters were not my two older sisters and who became nuns, and myself were not breastfed, and then the next four were breastfed. So if you live in this delusion that free enterprise, advertising, look at advertising. Every advertising you see points out their lie. Like they always they know their competitors are going to talk about their flaw, so they talk about the flaw in a positive light. Like when they say 2 scoops of raisins in every box, you already know there's no raisins in there. When they say we have 100,000 mile warranty on our car, you already know it sucks. I don't ever hear Mercedes-Benz and Lexus talking about their car warranty because my Lexus has 175,000 miles on it and it still hasn't even farted yet. But on my last car is a GMC, and I think it should have came with a full-time mechanic handcuffed in the back of the car just to keep me going. So in ortho school, I gotta love the orthodontists. Talk about the Teamsters Union. Talk about Jimmy Hoffa. The American Association of Orthodontists kept the curriculum out completely. So our whole ortho education at UMKC was on like craniofacial, both and development. I mean, it never got to anything applied. And then when you say, well, can we do a rapid palatal expander? And they go, well, if you want to learn that, you should go to ortho school. And I'd say, well, if I go ask the endodontist about a root canal, he doesn't say go to endo school. If I go up to oral surgery and ask Charlie White or Brett Ferguson, will you help me pull a tooth? He doesn't say go to oral surgery school. But the orthodontist, I mean, my God, they are they're all based out of St. Louis. Is the American Association of Ortho, the International Association, the Intergalactical Association, and they stay together, and they're under tremendous. So to answer your question, I learned nothing in school about that. And the two orthodontists who taught us, board certified Richard Litt, went out there with his Force Institute. He was the chairman of ortho at UCSF, and then went later on, spent a decade at teaching at University of Detroit. But the minute he started teaching general dentists how to do ortho, completely blackballed from the union, never published, treated like a scumbag. And the other one was right in my backyard, Harry Green. Published. Oh, yeah, and Harry Green, oh, my gosh. He started teaching low-life general scumbags like me ortho, and he was just written off. So if all the other specialties did that, we would know nothing about endo, perio, pedo. Yeah. We would know nothing. But now they're under, it's kind of funny because the enemy of your enemy is your friend. Now that you have the Smile Direct Club going directly to the consumer, I think the orthodontists are going to have to say, oh, low-life general dentist, how are you doing? Because now there's a greater enemy, and now they're so the orthodontist. In fact, if I was a young kid and I was looking at the 12 specialties, I guarantee you orthodontics is going to be the most disruptive, because I've seen it in lecturing in South Africa, Vietnam, Cambodia. I mean, I couldn't believe it. Like me and the boys were at like a restaurant in Cambodia, and little 16-year-old girls with just beautiful, perfect teeth. That was the waitress. Is wearing Invisalign. And I'm like, well, how much was that? And there it was 1,000 US. And I said, well, how much do you make an hour in US? And I mean, the way I did the math on a bar napkin, she was paying about a third of her annual wages to get clear aligners. So, and then when you look at the goal of a species, the main goal of a species is to survive long enough to reproduce and replace yourself. So the urge to look as pretty as a peacock to mesmerize a mate is so strong, and they just want those straight teeth. I mean, who cares if they blow out the Curvis B, the Curva Wilson, and you have lower back pain?
Howard, we're making people's teeth straight, but by definition, if you need to wear a retainer, you are holding your teeth out of the balance zone, aren't you?
Yes, and I think the retainer is harder than the straightening the teeth originally.
Yeah, but if you're holding teeth out the balance zone, you're holding, you've got, we know, the teeth sit in this balance zone between the lip and the cheeks and then the tongue on the inside. That balance zone determines where the bone, the periodontum, and the teeth are going to be. Now, we can hold the teeth with retainers out the balance zone, but can we hold the bone and the periodontum permanently out of the balance zone? Because the evidence is suggesting, no, we can't. Orthodontics is a relatively new specialty, and people have not been wearing retainers for that long. But I thought about this a decade ago, and I was waiting for a periodontist and an endodontist to contact me. The endodontist because of the shortening of the roots. But I met a periodontist a while ago from University of Penn, and she said that they're getting a lot of these cases in the sort of late 40s, early 50s, people wearing their retainers for decades. They get a little bit of gum disease, and it runs through the mouth like wildfire because all of the buccal teeth have got fenestrations and dehiscence. And these people are then left with very, very poor bone levels because the bone is not going to exist except if it's in the balance zone. So even after you lose your teeth, you've lost your balance zone.
That is very, very
profound.
It is profound. And
so if you're a dentist, so if you're a dentist watching this, and you've got patients with retainers, and you're encouraging them wear to retainers, or you're replacing the retainers, you've got at least give them that knowledge that what's happening. Remember, Howard, there's a whole speciality. Go and see the Association of Applied Myofunctional Sciences, the AAMS. This is a group of people who are myofunctional therapists. They are teaching you or teaching individuals to change this balance zone. Now, I think, of all the things going on, we've got a problem, we've got the solution, and we're not even telling people that this solution exists.
Okay, but I just want to I just want to say for the record to the young kids in school, you go tell an orthodontist that you're reading myofunctional anything, he immediately is going to think you're a nut job. Am I right or wrong?
It was a bad business model, isn't it? Trying to teach kids to change. Who makes money, a dietitian or a liposurgeon? Because one drives a Ferrari and the other rides a bicycle.
So you're calling it the AOMT?
AAMS, the Academy of Applied Myofunctional Sciences. Go and have a look at their website. I mean, they're getting big hit speakers in. They're getting some of the most published orthodontists in the world lecturing. They've got, they have big conferences. And yet it seems, when are we going to start? Medicine is about treating the causes of a problem. That's the idea with medicine. It's not about fixing it because, as I said, crooked teeth, make them straight. Medicine's about why are the teeth crooked? What can we do rather than just having orthodontics forever? Because, what's the difference between a retainer and an Invisalign appliance? They look pretty similar to me. We could say that's orthodontics forever. Well, that's not following these rules of medicine. Find the cause, treat the cause. That's what we've got to go back to. And so my big thing has been, we need a debate on the etiology of malocclusion. So if you Google Mike Mew, Black Swan, I start a challenge to the British orthodontists saying, look, we need a debate on the etiology. I don't know if you know this, but it's well acknowledged within orthodontics that they only really know the cause of malocclusion in 5% or less cases. And by the time you've got rid of all the syndromes and the diseases and the traumas, you're left with a lot of thumb suckers and you're left with a few tongue thrusters. And after that, they've got no idea. No idea. So if you have a child and you take your child to see the orthodontist, they will probably, almost certainly, have no idea why that problem occurred. So all I'm asking for is the scientific process. I'm saying, why can't, scientific process has bought us these phones. It's bought us so much. Why can't we do this in orthodontics? What's the problem?
Well, first of all, on this very show, I've asked some of the biggest names of orthodontics. I said, do you agree with anything out of the myofunctional camp? And they say no.
Yeah.
And I say, well, is 1% of it on target? And they say no.
Howard, I've got a challenge for you. Get me a face-to-face conversation with any notable orthodontist.
Okay, I'm going to go you, me, and two orth. I'll go two. I don't want to, but anyway, so yeah, I'll set this up. It'll be
set it up. I'm happy. I just want
And what's the opposite of myofunctional? Orthodontic myofunctional debate. What would you call this?
Well, I would just say, I could talk on any core subject in orthodontics, anything. We can talk about we can talk about posture, we can talk about function, but also, basically we can ask, why are teeth crooked and what are we doing about it? Why can't we have the scientific process in orthodontics? Why does everyone run away whenever I ask difficult questions?
Yeah, and that's another thing on this political debate.
That's a trade when you're protecting your business because you don't want to engage in science.
Right, and that's what we're seeing here in this election too. I mean, if you tried to debate, it goes violent in like 8 seconds. Like, dude, you can't even have a conversation without using profanity and getting violent. Yeah. I mean, you know, if your idea is so great that you have to kill people to implement it, you're the problem. It's no one else. You're the problem. And then another thing, I've seen people. You know, someone will ask a really legitimate question about global warming. And if you just ask the question, they go, what are you, a flat earther? It's like, oh, I'm sorry. And then they always say, well, 97% of all the scientists agree. Well, yeah, 97% of all the editorial board of the Wall Street Journal are not Marxist economists. I mean, it's called groupthink. Yeah. You can't, you know, they're not going to hire a bunch of people that don't believe in them. So the orthodontic community obviously would be old school. And now they're waking up to.
I mean, the constant criticism I get is you've got no evidence, and in that referring to the treatment type that I'm trying to develop. And yes, we don't have any evidence. Having some doors open in the ivory tower would help greatly for us to compile evidence because it's really quite difficult to do on your own. But I'm not claiming the system I use and am developing is fantastic. I don't claim it at all. I state it's a terrible system. Better, in my opinion, than the alternatives, but I'm not trying to promote it. You know, I do this system called Orthotropics. I'm not claiming we're there because I have got to change children. I've got to get them to learn to keep their mouth closed. I've got them to get them to stand up straight. You know that stand up straight, shut your mouth? Not a new idea, but it's not that easy to change people. What I'm calling for is debate on the etiology. Let's start with why are teeth crooked? Because if you don't know that, you don't really understand your subject. And it's a good place to start.
Okay, my homies right now, they're these are hour-long shows. They're either commuting to work or it's some poor bastard on a treadmill. And, you know, just I feel sorry for that guy the most. But your New York Times article, how two British orthodontists, that's you and your father, became celebrities to incels. The Muse, a father-son team orthodontist, have an unusual theory about the source of crooked teeth, one that has earned them a following in some of the darker corners of the internet. So for my homie who can't read that while he's driving, why did the largest media company in the United States, the New York Times, why did they want to know more about it? How did you make the New York Times? And what is the gist of your article?
Well, it's this. So clearly I've put some lectures up on YouTube, and I didn't kind of, you know, sometimes when you don't think about the unintended consequences of what you're saying, but I was talking about how to correct malocclusion by gaining an upswing in facial form. So what I'm saying is that due to predominantly lack of tough food and poor oral posture, we're gaining a downswing in facial form. And this is endemic. You know, you can't see with the wood for the trees. When you understand what I mean by downswing in facial form, you will see it everywhere. So I talk about how I work towards gaining an upswing in facial form. And, you know, I didn't imagine that these young sort of 16 to 30-year-olds would take me literally and try and implement the methods I was recommending. My comment to them is, you'd be crazy to try. It is not easy. However, in a way, you'd be crazy not to try, because why not? You know, we're not just talking about making your face look better. We're improving your health in many respects. And I then gained I got emails, you know, those days I could answer the emails that I was sent. You know, today I get approximately 100 emails a day. You know, it's crazy.
And how many of those do you answer yourself?
None. So my team. So
so your team does?
My team just filters through them to try and find actual patients who want treatment.
Okay.
And it's actually, please, if anyone listening there, please stop sending me these mails. We can't answer all these questions. And I'm realizing this, well, before I had too many mails, I realized that it was easier to respond to a mail with a video. So get a couple of questions together and make a video about it. So I started doing this. I started making a few videos telling people what I was doing and what I thought they could do to try and improve their situation and what I was telling my patients. So basically, I kind of hacked my functional therapy, taking the best bits out of it and come up with these concepts. And the concepts were christened by someone somewhere as mewing. And then people start posting photographs. And I am blown away by these photographs. I mean, I'm seeing crazy changes. I mean, you're seeing kids that look like they were slapped around the face with a wet fish become model material. And they've never met me. They've done this all themselves, and it's cost them nothing. And you think about the improvement in their general health, their airway, their body posture. These guys have made significant gains. And of course, this then snowballs this whole movement. I guess it's becoming a movement because, I remember seeing an article written in Vice, and the last sentence was, and I'm sure as far as this craze arrived, it will disappear. However, that's not what's happening, because you've got a lot of people who are making significant gains. And even the ones that aren't showing their facial photographs, they're making health gains. I mean, a lot of those mails coming through to me are people that just say, thank you. No more. They say either they make health gains or they understand what their problem was or is. And for a lot of people, that's important. But, I guess I've helped a lot of people improve their general health, and of course, look more attractive. But in a way, Howard, I've always thought that attractiveness and good health are two sides of the same coin, because we're hardwired to be attracted to healthy people. And what is attractiveness? It is our representation. It's your display, your CV display on your face, that you're got good genes. I've got great genes because I grow a great face, or at least I know how to grow a great face. So I gained this following online, and that is newsworthy. And I think that's what the New York Times picked up on. I don't think the New York Times was ever going to go as far as say that we were a concrete alternative to orthodontics. And so they took an interesting angle on it. It was interesting to see. I think it's a slight lost opportunity to ask for debate, to say, look, I don't claim to have all the answers, but I'm asking the right questions. We need engagement. And that's what we're not getting in the orthodontic community. We're just not getting engagement. No, as I said, you try and find me any orthodontist of note who's willing to engage in an open conversation on any subject within orthodontics.
Well, is there any favorite adversaries you have? I mean, well, I'll tell you what I'll do. I have a thread on Dental Town. It's called The Greatest Orthodontic Podcast Hits, and I've done 2 pages of them. Are you very familiar with many American orthodontists or any? But anyway, is there one that you would like to debate the most? I mean, I'm sure I can get them on.
If we were to take British orthodontists, I would say Kevin O'Brien.
Oh yeah, Kevin O'Brien.
Just have an open discussion. I've challenged him so many times.
And
he's not interested. But anyone, any orthodontist from anywhere in the world, I'll have a debate. That's how science moves forwards. It doesn't move forward when the doors are closed and no one's communicating. And I'm not here to take people down. I just want answers. I want the goddamn truth. What I do doesn't make a great deal of money. I struggle. I've lost money over the 10 years in a net effect, but I'm getting better and better at what I do. But we've got to, this is people's health we're talking about here. You know, we're doctors. We're supposed to be helping people. And if I've got concerns, my worry is that orthodontics can sometimes cause a downswing in facial form. It's implicit sometimes in sleep apnea. We don't know the full extent of this, but we need to really engage and discuss these. And, you know, I was fascinated. The American Orthodontic Association had this event in Marco Island where they discussed the question of sleep apnea and orthodontics. None of the people that I know who are raising these issues were given any airtime.
Oh, right.
You know, the results, the statement was written up before the end of the event. This type of situation cannot go on, because the longer you put it off, the more trouble there will be when it eventually happens. And yet, I mean, I'm widely hated amongst the orthodontic community. My name is the byword for poor science, lack of evidence, all of the things that I would accuse the people accusing me of doing is accused to me. And as I said, I just want the truth. I want to know what's going on. And I'm not going to stop till I get the truth.
Well, nice. Yeah, I mean, some of the greatest minds in history were not accepted. And like I say, if you have an argument, have an argument. But when you, what is it called, a straw man, where if I say something and your only response is, oh, well, he's just short, fat, and bald. He's Irish. I mean, what do you expect from an? That's not an argument. That's what you're doing is your raisin brand. You're saying there's 2 scoops of raisins in every box because you don't have any raisins. I mean, and when people ask a great question and you your reply is that you're a flat earther, I mean, they have nothing. And you know what I've noticed in my entire life, whether it was studying economics or dentistry or whatever, the greatest teacher, there truly is no stupid question, and they're really most motivated by your passion. And I mean, I've asked teachers so many times, they go, you know what, hold that to the end of class because this could go an hour. And you're like, damn, you just gave your hour lecture, and now you're just getting it on for another hour. I mean, they love their material. So if you and that's what's so weird about. I'll give you the first clue. So my mother groomed my two oldest sister to become nuns straight out of school, and she groomed me to be the first Catholic pope. I mean, my mom told me, she goes, Howie, you're so smart, you could be the first Catholic. And I'm like, oh, I was all on board because it's your mom and everything. But I remember that the death of that journey was in the 7th grade, or the somewhere at the end of grammar school at St. Patrick's, or in high school in Bishop Carroll. And I asked Sister Giovanni, I said, I had just read this book, and it had the planet Earth, and it was like the shape of a grenade, and it called The Population Explosion. And one part in this book was saying that, you know, the smart liberal countries like yours that had smaller families and birth control, they had a median higher income, you know, twice of that. But in all the Catholic countries, from Brazil, Central and South America, the 5.5 kids, you know, was that basically the nutshell was, if you're growing your population at 5%, but you're growing your economy at 3%, you're growing poverty. And even Mao Zedong saw this, where the Chinese miracle was to just stop the population growth, 1 child per family, until the economy caught up with the people, and then they built this amazing deal. And I asked her about that. I said, well, isn't the Pope's policy on birth control causing poverty? And she slapped me in the face. And I mean, she was like my idol. I loved her. I that was my serious question, and it was met with a handprint on my face. So I went back to the locker, and my friend,
years of popedom went out the window.
Yeah, and my friend said, it looks like there's a handprint on your face. And I told him the question I asked, and he said, Well, you can't ask that to a nun.
You can't ask that question, no.
And I said, well, if you can't ask them a question, then they don't have anything to stand on. You have to engage flat earthers. And I see everyone do it with their grandchildren, but why can't they do it with their colleagues? Why do they have to turn violent and crazy when it's a colleague as opposed to a child?
You know,
it killed my faith. It killed my faith in everything that she said afterwards. I said, well, she just can enforce this with violence. She can't talk it out. So what, do you have any orthodontist colleagues in all the UK, or do they all pretty much have written you off for questioning?
Well, you know,
the Holy Grail?
I haven't cultivated a lot of friends within the orthodontic fraternity. I've got a few, and they all, well, I mean, when I talk to them, they're all going, Mike, you're right, but I've got an earning to live. I've got earning to make. I can't use your method. I'm starting to turn the tide now, and I'm getting systems that actually make money. But till this point, it's been a lost leader, more or less, doing what I do. So,
which is the same problem the pediatric dentists are having with silver diamine fluoride. I mean, if they do a pulpotomy and a chrome steel crown, they get a bill out hundreds of dollars. But if they just paint some silver diamine fluoride on there, they get like $12. And if you got $2,000, if you got rent, mortgage, equipment bill, that computer insurance, malpractice, all the stuff. I mean, my pediatric dentist friends tell me, like, are you out of your mind? I would go bankrupt if I did the silver diamine fluoride thing.
Yeah. What more do I say on that? You know?
Yeah.
And of course,
what more you should say on that is that you should marry smarter. You should marry wealthy people. When I tell you an American worth $100 million, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? Is it a boy, girl, young, old? What is it?
I'm thinking of an IT geek myself at the moment, but
$100 million. See, their husbands built this company their whole life and then died of heart disease. And then she sold the company. Then she puts it in a bond fund. Almost everyone in America worth $100 million is an 80-year-old widow. That's who you should marry. Yeah. You should marry her while you're in dental school. I mean, come on, what's she going to live? 5 years, 10 years max? And then you got $100 million and can do silver diamine fluoride and myofunctional appliances, and you don't even have to sign up for insurance.
Yeah.
By the way, if you're listening to this and you're 80 years old and you're worth $100 million, my email is howard@dentaltown.com. But anyway, So these things, I believe all these changes take place over generations. I mean, they don't change place.
Generations. You see, my father has been a great disruptor. He's not always the most politically savvy of people. And I think he was too early in his attempts to gain change. And of course, he was a little bit, he really thought naively that when he started saying to people, oh, what about this and what about that? They'd say, oh, but of course you're right. Yeah, we're going to do that. And, there we go. Lessons are learnt. But my grandfather put the seeds of ideas into him. My grandfather was doing some orthodontics, and that changed my father's viewpoint. But in a way, I am the third generation orthodontist. So these are generational changes, and this will change in my lifetime. There's no doubt it will change in my lifetime, because whereas previously people didn't know about other methods, now just Google something on YouTube. Google something, you'll find out. People are becoming knowledgeable and they care about their health.
Okay, one of the things in the New York Times, which I thought was a crazy word to use, says how 2 British orthodontists became celebrities to incels. Most people, everyone I showed that article didn't even know what an incel is. Yeah,
neither did I to begin with. Apparently, an incel.
What is an incel?
Involuntary celibate. So these are these young boys who don't look so great, can't find a girlfriend, and they want to look better. Damn. So, and they go on
I never knew my oldest sister was an incel. My God, I'm going to let her know today. Mary, Sister Anna of Yahweh, did you know you're no, she's a voluntary celibate. So
she's probably changed.
Oh.
But these kids, To be honest, I don't think there were many incels, but clearly the New York Times wanted to make an interesting. I think they arrived here with our clinic with an angle. When I reflect on what Billy was saying or asking, he didn't ask that many questions. He already had what he wanted to say, and that was the article he put out. But that's what newspapers do, isn't it?
They sell magazines. If it bleeds, it leads.
They want to find a good angle that is interesting that they can sell some magazines on.
Yeah. So let's get back to the young kid. She's in dental kindergarten school. The first thing she might be thinking about is back to the money. A specialist in America in dentistry earns about $300,000 a year, and a general dentist is under $200,000. So she's already thinking about specialty, and I think that's a trend line. I think there's way too much knowledge. You can't master orthodontics, endodontics, pediatric dentistry, and place implants. The United States has 40,000 monthly health periodicals mailed out monthly. You can't read 40,000 health journals. I always make the example, I got a friend who does an optometry for glasses, another one who's an ophthalmologist, MD, and another guy who only does retina work if you have glaucoma. I mean, there's too much to know it all. So the trend line, and I recommend it, is to specialize. So my question to you is, out of 12 specialties recognized by the American Dental Association, would you recommend that a kid go into orthodontics?
No, don't consider it. Because when there's a change, there's a large change, a disruptive change in a society. It is not good for your business model. You can't update this quickly. The business model, I mean, Howard, maybe I put down what I'm doing, but what we're doing is we're changing facial structure. So I'm not trying to straighten teeth. I'm trying to change the physical structure of people's faces, either as they grow, and I'm starting to get quite good at doing it after people have grown. Now, everyone wants straight teeth, of course, because they've got crooked teeth and they know they can be aligned. But everyone will want, well, I would imagine that when people realize that we can change facial form, and that's related to sleep apnea, forward head posture, jaw joint issues, as well as crooked teeth, then I think we're going to get a movement of people wanting better faces. And that brings dentistry. You think where it's positioning dentistry. Dentistry at the moment is largely about teeth. It's not really medicine. It's not really being a medical doctor. And yet, if we start looking at how we can change facial structure, we're opening dentistry up. This is a birth of a huge area of dentistry. So I wouldn't recommend people do orthodontics, but I would recommend people stand on the, I would say go and learn what I'm doing. Be there, be an early adopter, get in this early, because this is a subject that will just grow, and it will grow. There is going to be a never-ending demand of people who want their facial structure to improve. How much you can improve it? Well, let's just watch this space. There's a lot of interesting developments going out there from, this surgically assisted or TAD-based, screw-based expansion, MSE, to work on, tricks to improve body posture and breathing. There's a whole, infantile science starting to grow here. So I would say, if you're thinking of orthodontics, don't go and learn orthotropics. It is the new science. It is growing. It will take over because it's based on the facts. And however hard you try to, I will avoid that comment, however hard you try to make something look good, it can't look good if you don't have the basic facts underneath.
Okay, I want to tell you, I'm just going to throw two things out there and see what it makes you think about. Again, the kids in dental school, these are the questions they asked me at howard@dentaltown.com, on Dentaltown, comments into the YouTube. They say they're the most confused about TMD. the causes of it, all this stuff.
Oh,
How
so
come they
simple.
come out of school and they know endo, perio, pediatric, but why is TMD
I'll give you
so
5
confusing?
minutes. 5 minutes. I'll explain jaw joint problems, right? So as I described to you, the faces are getting longer. As faces get longer, your tongue is moving closer and closer into your pharynx. Okay, so there comes a point. So where our ancestors, about 10,000 years ago, were here. By the late medieval period, we're here. As we hit the Industrial Revolution, we're downswinging more and more and more. There then comes a point where you've got to do something. You're running out of space for your tongue. You still want to breathe. So you come up with a couple of habits to have a comfortable tongue posture, so you can still breathe, you can still have your tongue, you can still function. So the most common thing people do is this: tongue evenly between the teeth, all the way around. That'll give you a class 1 malocclusion. You could do this, very popular with Caucasians. That's going to give you a class 2. You could drop your tongue in your mandible, hold it forward. That'll give you a class 3. Very popular in the east of the world. Or you could push your jaw forward. Very popular in Africa, giving you an anterotin bite. So these tendencies that are read as genetic because people aren't looking at the real causes, they're just tendencies that people pick up. But the most common thing people are doing across the board is resting with their tongue slightly between their teeth. Now, if you rest with your tongue slightly between your teeth all of the time, then you're basically holding your jaw open a little bit. It's like holding a door slightly open all the time. And let's imagine that you've got a maintenance man in your clinic that comes around regularly, and he notices there's a gap in the hinge. So he fills it up with plastic wood. Now it fits perfectly. It fits absolutely perfectly to where the door is, or the analogy with your jaw joint. Your jaw joint is now perfectly set up for where you rest. Now, when you bite together, the jaw joint's in the wrong place. It's not set up to take stress in that position. There's no space for the disc, so the disc is going to pop forwards. And it's never going to get better because you continue to have the same posture. So all the time the body's going, well, hang around. This is the right place to have the jaw joint. What's the problem? And then, because your tongue's not on the roof of the mouth, is not acting as the natural antagonist for your jaw closing muscles. So if you take every muscle in your body, so I've got my biceps and my triceps, they're working away very nicely here. This muscle and this muscle are controlling this movement. And I can do this, and I can do this, and do all of these movements. And I don't really think about what I'm doing. I just want my arm to move, and I inform it to move. But these muscles are working perfectly as antagonistic pairs. Now, what's the antagonistic muscle for your jaw closers? Your big, powerful muscles here.
Masseter.
These little ones down here, they're pants. They're never going to help fight these massive muscles. Well, it's got to be the tongue. It's got to be the tongue on the roof of your mouth. It's the only muscle, I don't know, one muscle that the far end attachment is unattached so that you can speak and so that we can eat. But of course, if your tongue is not on the roof of your mouth, is not acting as a natural antagonist for your jaw closing muscles. So if anything upsets you, you're lying there in the evening and, a little bit gets stressed, your jaw muscles clench a little bit and nothing is going to stop you from clenching. It's a little bit like one of those old-fashioned steam engines would have a governor on it. And the faster the governor spun, the more it would slow the engine down. Well, if you took the governor and you ripped it off and threw it away, and then you stoke the engine up with lots of coal and get it faster and faster and faster, it's going to go on and on and on till it destroys itself. And if your jaw joint is not in the right place, is not in the correct organization to take any load, and there's no space in the back, so the disc's been squashed out, and you're on the pterygoid ligament, and now you're just because nothing's going to stop you. The tongue's not there to act as a natural antagonist, the natural inhibitor to your clenching. So you've not only got something set up wrong, you've got complete lack of any system to control. The controlling mechanism is gone. Right. So now you go to a dentist and he's going to give you a splint. Well, of course, what he's doing is he's reproducing that gap you created with your tongue. So now he's changed your occlusal position so it meets. And they're great. Splints are great for about 6 months. But then after that, you've now filled the space where the tongue was. So often people will rest with their tongue on top, opening the vertical dimension at rest more. So now you're going to add more material to your splint. None of this, it's a good fix. It's a good temporary solution, but you're not really gaining a long-term solution because you're not changing the underlying problem. The underlying problem was, first, they didn't have enough space for their tongue. Second, they didn't have the tongue on the roof of the mouth, which was probably a little narrow, so uncomfortable to leave the tongue there. So they're not got the natural antagonism. But you try, if you start to clench, anyone there listening to this, start clenching, engage your tongue fully on the roof of the mouth, learning what a suction hold is, learn the importance of the back third of the tongue, get your tongue fully engaged, and the clenching will stop instantly.
So I want to ask you, in the New York Post, October 17th, this is October 20th, woman files $10 million lawsuit against dentist after alleged botched surgery. A clarinetist claims she could literally lose face after an alleged botched procedure by a Manhattan dentist. Boja Krujali, who has performed in orchestras. You know about this?
I know the claimant and I know the defendant.
Martha?
Yep, I know them all.
Well, but then weigh in on that case, or tell me what's going on.
Well, I mean, I'm just
$10 million got my attention.
Okay, yeah, $10 million. So, you know, I worry that people are trying to. They realize there's a problem, and the guys that came out with AGA realizing there's a problem, and they're trying to fix this problem, but they're trying to fix this in a mechanical way. They're not trying to affect the underlying solutions to the problem. So they're not trying to affect the underlying causes of the problem. So without affecting the underlying causes of the problem, they're trying to expand teeth and push them too far out the bony envelope. And you can move the bony envelope if you change posture and function. If you don't change posture and function, it's immutable. It won't change. And her teeth, I wonder how much I can say. Well, she's lost a lot of roots on her teeth. A lot of roots because the teeth have been pushed out the bony housing. So,
and who pushed them out of the bony housing?
I mean, this appliance system. If you have a system like this AGA and you don't change, you don't make an effort to change your physical oral posture and function, there is a risk of moving teeth out of, losing the roots of the teeth.
Okay, we're almost out of time, and I gotta get two more controversies out of the way. When I was in dental school, they said the abfractions were from eating and grinding, and then I was only out of school about 10 years, and the veterinarian said, "Wait a minute, we find these in cows and sheep." And I'm sorry, the abfraction was from brushing back and forth. We were sawing these ledges into the teeth. And then about 10 years out of school, the veterinarians say, "Hey, we see them in cows and horses and sheep, and they don't brush their teeth." Abfraction. If you go to the Wikipedia page on abfractions, dental abfractions, it says right there, cause unknown. So, but
Wikipedia is wonderful. I mean, you want to say something on Wikipedia, you put it up there. But if you've got a group like the orthodontists who don't like what you're saying, it never stays there. It gets taken down straight away.
So what is an abfraction? Or what?
It's not really my area, but I don't see many abfractions on ancient skulls. And these guys wore their teeth away sometimes. I mean, I've seen cases where they have literally worn their teeth down till the roots, the molars have broken into roots. That's a lot of wear, and yet not many abfractions. And again, this is what I think. If you've got a system in balance where your tongue and your chewing muscles are naturally in their antagonistic pairing, I don't think you're going to get that stress that we feel is the cause of abfraction. But abfraction's not really it's not my area.
Okay, and then last but not least, and you've been such a saint staying on so long, is orthognathic surgery. Nobody wants to have one. I remember when I saw my first patient that had that in 1987. Oh my God, his face, he swelled up like a basketball. Now, I know it's gotten a lot more conservative of a procedure, but how much of this, just rant your thoughts on the orthognathic surgery industry in America and the need for it and all that stuff.
Okay, well, first of all, it would be nice if people were told that there's about a 50% 10-year relapse. I think that's not really highlighted greatly. And when I see people who relapse, I see some people who relapse completely. The whole lot goes back. And you can see the screws and the pins and everything else all heading south, downswinging. I see some people who get better. Now, it would make sense because what I'm saying is that, if you've got good posture, you've got good muscles, you stand well, you've got your tongue on the roof of the mouth. If someone suddenly gives you space and the ability to do that, and you then do that, you'll continue to improve. However, if you've got a terrible situation, like maybe you've got sleep apnea even, you've been doing this all your life, someone gives you surgery and you continue to do this, what's going to happen? You're going to go back to start one. Go back to go. Do not collect £200. It's surgery can be beneficial. And I would wish, I would love to work with some oral surgeons looking at sort of minor surgical techniques that we could use with some of the techniques I use to help develop faces with the minimum health risks, and then going on to gain better and better results. If you gain a virtuous cycle of change, so if you improve someone's posture, you help them with their muscle function, you can get a virtuous cycle of change. I mean, some of the facial outcomes I've got with patients are just extreme. It's incredible. They don't look like the same person. I'm getting there with adults slowly. But, that is, I think, where we've got to go with orthognathic surgery in the future. First of all, trying to prevent as much orthognathic surgery, because it should be preventable. This never happened in our ancestors. There is no evidence that this is due to any form of genetic admixture, intermixing. These are fairy tales. Why do they propagate? Why do they continue? But anyway, we should be reducing, with the prevent crooked teeth, the amount of orthognathic surgery required. Then when we do orthognathic surgery, if we can minimize the surgical element, maximize the types of techniques I use, and then afterwards, if we can really engage people's posture and function, then we're making progress. Then we're using that scientific process to move forwards. Otherwise, it can be helpful. I'm not here. Orthodontics is great for lining teeth. Don't let me suggest it's not.
And I cannot let a profound historian, third generation orthodontist, not weigh in on Dr. Raymond Begg, the Australian orthodontist pioneer who died in 1983. If some young kid said, what do you think of Begg?
Okay, great. I mean, Begg did some research. So Begg went down and took a group of Aboriginals. He actually took each individual tooth separately. So it sounded like he had far more material than he really had. And he looked at how much wear was between the tooth. And he found out that there was approximately a premolar in each quadrant. So he suggested we should take a premolar out to compensate. Now, there's two problems with this theory. First is Corricini went and looked at the same material, and the only conclusion he could come up with was Begg ignored the least worn teeth and just selected the most worn teeth. So basically, he cheated. The second point is that, yeah, they did get some wear, but they got their wear near the end of their life. So how would that apply to someone who's 12 or 14, who's got fresh virgin teeth erupted that you would never expect to be worn? It doesn't make sense. Yes, they did get wear, but that wear would have been, soon before you died. It wouldn't have no effect when your teeth were erupting when they weren't worn.
All right. Nice. My gosh. Go ahead.
I want to make the take home message. All right. Here, Howard, if you are a dentist and you have any child over the age of 4, I highly advise you to take a lateral photograph of their face, a side photograph of their face every year. You're going to do a checkup. You've got cameras. Just take a photograph. Hopefully, try going a decent distance away and zooming in because to avoid parallax. But just take a photograph of every growing child over the age of 4. That should be mandatory. If you've listened to this podcast, if you've taken anything away from what I've said, if you don't do that, you're just ignoring science. You are not providing correct healthcare for the children on your books. Take those photos every year, bank them. You're doing a checkup, you're checking the teeth, take a photo.
All right.
Because if you don't know where you're growing, you don't know anything.
And a big shout out to one of my mentors and idols and a registered member of Dentaltown, orthodontist, Professor Kevin O'Brien, Professor Orthodontics, Director of the Healing Foundation, Cleft and Cranial Facial. I'm going to send him an email after this show and see if he will come on the program. I got to tell you one thing about people not liking to debate. Some of my very best friends that are dentists, and by that I mean they're just alcoholics, they won't come on the show because it just scares the hell out of them. I mean, public speaking, when you're out there lecturing, there's a lot of people that just can't do that. And so guys like us, so they're, how come, but what percent of the dentists that you know would just literally wet their pants if they thought they had to give a lecture? I know. So a lot of people seriously, genuinely want to talk.
This doesn't feel like public speaking. I'm sitting here looking at my home, looking at the computer. This doesn't feel like public speaking. I mean, however many people are going to watch this, right now, it doesn't feel like a public speaking experience. I'm not standing in front of an audience of 500. And I have. And I love it, but I can understand it's not everyone's cup of tea.
Yeah, and you also notice when you look at the influence out there, because I started Dentaltown in 99. I mean, St. Patrick's Day 99. And so when you looked at the whole lecture circuit back then, the influence have changed because the influencers back in the day, they had to have a love of public speaking. Whereas the influencer today, you're 10 times more profound. Like look at your YouTube channel. I mean, Mike, holy gamoly. This video that you're talking about has 173,000 views. Oh, you couldn't
I've got one over 1 million.
Yeah. The largest football stadium, of course, when I say football, I know you're thinking soccer, do you call it football over there or do you call it soccer?
Football. Of course it's football.
Yeah.
that is football, but
But what's the largest football soccer stadium in the world? Doesn't hold 100,000. So the biggest influencers today can sit behind a computer on their iPhone and do it. And I notice most of the influencers, and it's the same thing in the scientific community. The gal who's gonna write up a paper and all the footnotes and all that kind of stuff, they're usually neither a lecturer or an influencer. They're usually somewhere between a geek, a nerd, and a dentist. It's the triangular geek nerd deal. So different skill sets, different people. We'll ask Kevin. But hey, what I love about you the most is why I named this show Dentistry Uncensored. I don't care if 99% of the orthodontists don't agree with you. If you can't entertain a thought and reject it or accept it, I mean, it's all about that. It's a scientific process. And I love it when somebody tells me something that I didn't know. In fact, that's what I think is the coolest thing about what I'm doing is I've had a monthly column since 1994, and the same fear why people don't want to do that is because what if they're wrong? Is what I love the most. I mean, there's people carrying around bad information in their head their whole life, and every time I say something that's not right on this podcast or my monthly column on Dentaltown, someone sends me a letter and says, actually, that's not correct, blah, blah. And even crazy little stuff. The biggest outrage I ever caused was when I said, a 4-star general, Patton, I called Patton a 5-star general. And I got like 30 or 40 letters, this is before internet, telling me that he was a 4-star general. He never made it to 5-star. And I'm like, okay, first of all,
whatever.
Wow, whatever. But anyway, hey, thank you. I know you're busier than a one-armed orthodontist, and to come on the show, that's so great. And thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you very much for inviting me. And I will look forward to the next time when we have our group discussion with some orthodontists.
Absolutely. We're going to do it because, and then the last thing I want to say to orthodontists is if you got to talk about this, because your patients are going to ask questions. And I get in a lot of trouble where I'll post when dentists make the news. You know, some dentist has a hidden camera in his bathroom and I post that, and all these people are saying, why are you ruining dentistry? And I say 2 reasons. Number one, if one dentist put a hidden camera in his bathroom, I'm sure on a planet with 2 million people, one other dentist thinks it's a good idea and needs to see that this is not a good idea. Number 2, some people have broken brains. I mean, they don't have brain health. So a pure sociopath might not think it's a problem. But number 3, your patients are going to come in, and when they say, hey, you don't have a camera hidden in your bathroom, do you? I don't want you to be not even know what the hell they're talking about. I mean, if it's in the newspaper, I think little old tiny Howie can post it on his 12 followers. You know what I mean? I mean, I can't believe that I get flack for posting something that was in the New York Times. Or like, are you shitting me? I mean, come on. So thanks for being intellectually cerebral in a world that wants to shut everyone up and not be transparent. Big fan, and I'll be mewing over this podcast all day.
Howard, pleasure.
It was a pleasure. Thank you so much.